Everyone refused to rescue the paralyzed alien warrior, except for one human soldier. The acrid scent of plasma discharge and burning metal permeated the air as Brian Carter navigated through the wreckage of what had once been the forward command post. His combat boots crunched over spent shell casings and fragments of destroyed combat mechs, the sound echoing in the eerie silence that followed the massive battle. "Hell, here I am," he muttered, adjusting the strap of his Mark 7 plasma rifle. The weapon's power cell hummed reassuringly against his shoulder, one of the few familiar comforts in this wasteland of destruction. His tactical display showed nothing but static. The enemy's final assault had taken out most of their communication systems. The battle had been brutal. The Drachnid forces had struck hard and fast, overwhelming their defenses with sheer numbers. Now, as far as Brian could tell, he was the only survivor from his unit, the 23rd Marine Combat Division, reduced to a single soldier. His combat suit's environmental sensors picked up movement ahead. Brian crouched, his augmented muscles tensing as he raised his rifle. Through the settling dust and smoke, he caught a glimpse of something that made his breath catch. A female figure lay half-buried under debris. Her silvery hair fanned out like a metallic halo against the dark ground. Her skin possessed an otherworldly lavender-gray hue, a Lazarian warrior, one of humanity's strongest allies in the war against the Drachnids. Brian approached cautiously, his tactical training warring with his instinct to help the Lazarian. She wore what looked like a modernized version of ancient warrior garb, now torn and stained with phosphorescent blood. Her eyes fluttered open as he neared, revealing irises the color of storm clouds. "Don't move," he said, kneeling beside her. "I'm Sergeant Brian Carter, Earth Marine Corps." Kira Banis, she managed, her voice carrying a melodic accent despite her obvious pain. "3rd Strike Force. Can't feel my legs." Brian's medical scanner confirmed his fears. Her spine was severely damaged. "I'm in the middle of a hot zone, with enemy forces potentially regrouping," he thought grimly. She was as good as lost. Military protocol was clear. In retreat situations, immobile casualties were to be left behind. "Just leave me," she said, reading his expression. "Others must have survived. Save yourself." Brian looked at her. Then at his tactical display showing multiple bogies approaching from the north. The smart play was to run. The logical choice was to abandon her. But something in him rebelled against that idea. "Like hell," he growled, already working to free her from the debris. "I didn't survive this chaos just to leave someone behind." A ghost of a smile crossed her face. "Stubborn human." "You haven't seen stubborn yet, sweetheart." He carefully lifted her, noting how her combat suit, despite its revealing design, was made of advanced materials that helped stabilize her injuries. "This might hurt a bit." "I've had worse," she said, then gasped as he adjusted his grip. "Though perhaps not recently." Brian grinned despite the dire situation. "Hold tight. We're about to make an extremely unauthorized withdrawal from this party." He moved swiftly through the rubble-strewn battlefield, his enhanced muscles barely registering Kira's weight. The Lazarian warrior had fallen silent, but her steady breathing against his neck told him she was conscious, monitoring their surroundings with keen alien senses. "Your heart rate is remarkably steady for someone carrying dead weight through a war zone," she murmured, her breath tickling his ear. "Marine training, sweetheart, though I have to admit, you're the most attractive cargo I've ever had." Her soft chuckle sent an unexpected shiver down his spine. "Flirting while evading death. How delightfully human." "What can I say? I'm a multitasker." Brian paused behind a destroyed mech, checking his tactical display. 3 bogies at 2 o'clock. "Any insights on Drachnid patrol patterns?" "They hunt in triangular formations," Kira whispered, her fingers unconsciously tightening on his shoulder. "The visible ones are bait. Watch for flankers." Brian nodded, appreciating both her tactical knowledge and the way her body pressed against his as she shifted to get a better view. "Focus, Marine," he chided himself. "Got any other tricks up that stylish combat suit of yours?" "Several." Her voice took on a playful tone despite their situation. "Though I'm curious. What made you notice my outfit in particular?" "Professional interest only, of course." He grinned, carefully maneuvering around a smoking crater. "The tactical advantages of your armor design are quite striking." Of course, she purred. Just as I'm admiring your combat suit's capabilities, purely from a military perspective. Their banter was interrupted by the distinctive whine of Drachnid energy weapons charging up. Brian dove behind a fallen pillar, twisting to shield Kira with his body, as plasma bolts seared the air where they had been standing. Well, this is cozy, Kira commented, her face inches from his. Comfortable? Brian asked, already calculating escape routes. Quite. Her silver hair brushed his cheek as she turned to survey their situation. Though I prefer my intimate encounters with less plasma fire involved. Noted for future reference. Brian risked a peek over their cover. I count 5 hostiles now. Any suggestions? Kira's eyes gleamed with warrior intelligence. Their armor has a weak spot at the junction between shoulder and neck. One precise shot and boom. Brian finished. I like the way you think. He shifted position, keeping Kira secure while bringing his rifle to bear. The first shot caught a Drachnid warrior perfectly in the vulnerable spot Kira had identified, causing its armor to catastrophically fail. The resulting explosion took out 2 of its companions. Impressive shooting, Kira breathed, her admiration evident. Impressive intel, Brian countered, already moving to a new position. We make a good team. They continued their deadly dance across the battlefield, Brian's strength and combat skills complementing Kira's tactical knowledge. Despite her paralysis, she proved invaluable, her keen senses warning him of threats his systems missed. As they cleared another sector, Kira suddenly tensed. Brian, wait! Do you smell that? He paused, his enhanced senses picking up what she noticed. Fuel cells, lots of them. There. She pointed to a partially collapsed structure. That's a down transport, military grade. If it's one of ours, it might have a medical pod. Worth the risk. I trust your judgment. The simple statement carried more weight than her previous flirtations. Brian studied her face, noting the pain she was trying to hide. Then we check it out. But first, he adjusted his grip, pulling her closer. More comfortable? Much. Her fingers traced a pattern on his armor. Though I can think of several more comfortable positions. Save that thought for when we're not about to get shot at. Brian chuckled, moving toward the transport. The structure loomed before them, a testament to the battle's ferocity. As they approached, Brian's tactical display flickered with warning signals. Company? Kira asked, sensing his tension. Oh yeah, looks like we're about to have ourselves a party. Good thing you brought a date then. The down transport's emergency lighting cast an ethereal blue glow across Kira's silvery hair as Brian carefully maneuvered them through the wreckage. His tactical display showed multiple hostile signatures converging on their position, but the medical bay beacon pulsed stronger with each step. If this works, Kira whispered against his neck, you realize the power surge will light us up like a supernova to every Drachnid within 10 clicks. Then we'll have to make it count. Besides, I've always wanted to throw a party. The medical bay doors were partially melted, requiring Brian to shift Kira in his arms as he forced them open. The sight inside made both of them catch their breath. A fully functional Lazarian heel pod stood untouched amidst the destruction. By the first light, Kira breathed, that's not standard Alliance equipment. That's one of our sacred healing chambers. Brian raised an eyebrow. Sacred as in really effective? Or sacred as in might accidentally summon ancient gods? Both. Her storm gray eyes met his. Our healing technology works by creating a temporary biological bond between patient and operator. It's intimate. How intimate are we talking about? Brian asked, already moving toward the pod. Among my people, using a healing chamber together is considered more binding than marriage. A faint purple blush colored her cheeks. The genetic resonance can have unexpected effects. Brian paused. Are you warning me? Or proposing? Her laugh was musical despite their dire situation. Perhaps both. Though I should mention there's a reason we don't usually share this technology with other species. The bond it creates, it's permanent. Outside, the sound of Drachnid search parties grew closer. Brian's tactical display showed they had minutes at most. Will it heal you? He asked directly. Yes, but then the rest is just details. He began activating the pod. "I didn't carry you this far to stop because of some mystical alien marriage contract." Quote, dot. Kira's expression softened. "You continue to surprise me, human." Most would hesitate. Quote, dot. "Most didn't spend the last hour enjoying your combat commentary." The pod hummed to life as Brian placed her inside. "Besides, I've always been a sucker for dangerous women in exotic armor." Quote, dot. "Charmers." She grabbed his hand before he could step back. "But you need to understand, this will change both of us." The chamber didn't just heal, it adapted, evolved. "You mean I might turn purple?" "Brian, I am serious." Quote, dot. "So am I." He squeezed her hand. "You're worth the risk." The chamber's crystal surface began to glow as Brian stepped inside, positioning himself according to Kira's instructions. Their bodies aligned, faces inches apart. "Last chance to back out," she whispered. "Not a chance, beautiful," he grinned. "Though I do have one question. Does this make me your space husband?" The chamber activated before she could respond, enveloping them in brilliant light. The sensation was unlike anything Brian had ever experienced. Like liquid fire flowing through his veins, but pleasant. He could feel Kira's essence merging with his own, their genetic codes dancing together in an ancient ritual older than both their species. Through their new connection, he felt her surprise at his unwavering acceptance, her admiration for his courage, and something deeper, more primal. In turn, she experienced his fierce protectiveness, his attraction to her warrior spirit, and his absolute commitment to their survival. The process lasted minutes that felt like eternities. When the light faded, Brian found himself staring into Kira's eyes that now held flecks of his own brown amidst their stormy gray. His skin tingled where it touched hers, a new sensitivity that he somehow knew would never fade. "I can feel my legs," she whispered in wonder. "Then your eyes widened, and I can feel you. All of you, your thoughts, your emotions." "Yeah, that's different," Brian helped her stand, noting how naturally their movements synchronized. "Good different, though." Quote, dot. An explosion rocked the transport, reminding them of their situation. Brian's tactical display showed enemies breaching the outer hull, but now he could also sense them through Kira's enhanced awareness. "Ready to run?" he asked, drawing his weapon. Kira stretched, testing her restored body, then gave him a predatory smile that sent shivers of anticipation through both of them. "Ready to fight together?" She reached for her fallen weapons, and Brian felt her muscle memory become part of his own. Suddenly, he knew exactly how to wield Lazarian energy blades. "Now that's handy," he grinned, feeling her amusement echo through their bond. "Any other surprises I should know about?" "Many." She moved to his side, their bodies naturally falling into perfect combat synchronization, though perhaps we should discuss that after we eliminate these interruptions. Quote, dot. "Deal." Brian charged his rifle as Drachnid forces breached the medical bay doors, "but I expect a full briefing on this whole space marriage thing later." Quote, dot. "Of course, my unexpected bondmate." Kira's blade hummed to life. "Assuming you can keep up with your new wife." Quote, dot. The medical bay erupted into chaos as Drachnid forces poured through the breach. Brian and Kira moved as one, their newly formed bond transforming them into a lethal combat symphony. His plasma rifle complemented her energy blades perfectly, their movements synchronized with inhuman precision. "Left flank!" Kira's thought reached him instantly, and Brian was already firing before she finished the mental warning. 3 Drachnids fell, as her blade claimed 2 more. "They really should have brought more troops," Brian quipped, feeling Kira's amusement ripple through their connection. Clearly they underestimated the effectiveness of human-Lazarian cooperation. Quote, dot. Her blade danced through the air, leaving trails of light that matched the rhythm of his shots. Though I doubt anyone could have predicted this particular partnership, their shared consciousness enhanced every aspect of their combat prowess, and Brian could anticipate Kira's moves before she made them, while she instinctively knew where his shots would land. They flowed around each other like water, each motion precise and devastating. "Behind you!" both warned simultaneously, then laughed as they spun in perfect harmony, eliminating threats on opposite sides. The remaining Drachnids hesitated, clearly unnerved by their opponent's unnatural coordination. That moment of uncertainty proved fatal, as Brian and Kira launched a synchronized assault that left no survivors. Well, Brian breathed, lowering his rifle as the last enemy fell. That was exhilarating. Quote dot. Indeed, Kira finished, her eyes bright with battle fever. Through their bond, he felt her blood singing with victory, her body humming with unspent energy that matched his own. The intensity of combat combined with their mental connection had created an intoxicating cocktail of adrenaline and shared emotion. Brian felt Kira's desire crash over him like a wave, amplified by his own growing passion. "We should," he started. But Kira was already moving toward him, her silver hair floating around her like a celestial corona. "Yes, we should," she agreed, their bond transmitting everything words couldn't express. The healing chamber didn't just merge our minds, Brian. Our bodies are perfectly compatible now. Every sensation is shared. I can feel everything you feel. Quote dot. Then feel this. Her lips found his, and the world exploded in sensation. Their bond magnified every touch, creating feedback loops of pleasure that threatened to overwhelm them both. Time lost all meaning as they surrendered to their passion, their merged consciousness making everything more intense, more profound. Every caress, every kiss was experienced twice over, their pleasure building and reflecting between them like light between mirrors. Hours later, they lay entwined in a secure corner of the medical bay, their tactical gear scattered around them. Brian traced patterns on Kira's lavender skin, marveling at how the simple touch sent echoes of pleasure through their bond. That was, he searched for words, unprecedented. Kira suggested, her mental touch full of satisfied amusement. Knowing even among my people, the healing chamber's effects are usually more subtle. Quote dot. Must be my irresistible human charm. Quote dot. She laughed, the sound like music in both his ears and mind. More likely, it's your stubborn human determination. You didn't just accept the bond, you embraced it completely. No hesitation. No reservations. Quote dot. Why would I hesitate? He pulled her closer, their bodies fitting together perfectly. You're the most amazing woman I've ever met, human or alien. Through their connection, he felt her happiness at his words, but also a trace of concern. Brian, there's something you should know about Lazarian biology. Quote dot. In this bond we've created. Quote dot. Let me guess. More surprises? You could say that. She propped herself up on one elbow, her silver hair cascading over her shoulder. When we joined, it wasn't just physical. The healing chamber's effects combined with our compatibility. She paused, searching for words. Among my people, such a deep bond often leads to a distant. She was interrupted by the sound of Drachnid search parties growing closer. Tell me later, Brian suggested, already reaching for his gear. Later, she agreed, moving with fluid grace as she retrieved her weapons. Though you might want to prepare yourself for some interesting news about Lazarian reproduction. Quote dot. Brian paused in the middle of checking his rifle. Wait, what? Kira gave him a mysterious smile. Both physical and mental. Let's survive this first, my unexpected bondmate. Then we can discuss how human Lazarian genetics might interact under these unique circumstances. Through their shared consciousness, Brian felt the exact moment Kira confirmed what their bond had already whispered to them. Both her hands rested on her abdomen as they crouched behind cover, enemy fire screaming overhead. So, Brian said, squeezing off a perfect shot that dropped a Drachnid scout. I'm going to be a father. Kira's blade deflected an energy bolt back at its center. You don't seem surprised. Quote dot. After everything else today, finding out I'm having a half-human, half-Lazarian baby with my alien warrior wife seems pretty on brand. He grinned, feeling her amusement ripple through their connection, though I admit the speed is impressive. Quote dot. The healing chamber accelerated everything. Kira moved with deadly grace, her combat style already adapting to protect her midsection. Lazarian pregnancies are typically quick, but with our enhanced bond. She paused to eliminate 2 more enemies. We're in uncharted territory. Brian's tactical display highlighted their extraction point. Yeah, hidden Alliance bunker, 3 kilometers away. Quote dot. Then let's get to safety before Junior here decides to make things more interesting. Their shared consciousness made planning unnecessary. They moved as one unit, covering each other with practiced precision, that belied their brief time together. Every step, every shot, every blade strike flowed naturally from their merged awareness. You know, Brian commented as they cleared another sector, most couples spend their honeymoon somewhere romantic, not fighting through enemy lines while expecting. Disappointed, Kira teased, her mental touch warm with affection. Are you kidding? This is perfect. He meant it, and she felt his sincerity through their bond. Though I do have one question. Will the baby have your coloring or mine? A plasma burst interrupted her response, forcing them into a defensive position. Through their link, Brian felt Kira's sudden concern, not for herself, but for their unborn child. Hey, he said softly, both aloud and mentally, we're getting out of here, all three of us. Her response came through their bond, a wave of love and trust so powerful it nearly overwhelmed him. Along with it came an image, a beautiful child with his brown hair and her storm-gray eyes, skin a perfect blend of human and Lazarian tones. That's what you see? He asked, touched by the vision. That's what I know. She pressed closer to him, their bodies fitting together perfectly. Lazarian mothers have a connection with their unborn children, and through our bond, you can feel it too. Brian reached out with his newfound senses and gasped. There at the edge of their shared consciousness was a tiny spark of life, barely formed but already burning bright with possibility. That's he struggled for words. Our future, Kira finished, her mental touch full of wonder. A perfect fusion of our species, the first of their kind. A massive explosion rocked their position, reminding them of their immediate situation. Brian's tactical display showed enemy forces converging from multiple directions. Time to move, he said, already plotting their route. Ready for some aggressive parenting? Kira's response was to launch herself into action, her movements even more precise than before. Brian matched her perfectly. Their enhanced abilities now focused on a single goal, protecting their growing family. They fought their way through successive waves of enemies, their shared consciousness turning them into something more than either human or Lazarian. Every threat was met with devastating efficiency, their combined combat skills creating a deadly dance that left destruction in their wake. The bunker's close, Brian announced as they cleared another checkpoint. But that last blast knocked out my long-range comms. We'll be going in blind. Through their bond, he felt Kira's confidence. Not blind, she touched her stomach gently. We have something worth fighting for. Speaking of which, Brian paused, feeling a subtle shift through their connection. Did you just? Yes. Kira's mental touch was tinged with amazement. The baby's abilities are already developing. They're enhancing our bond somehow. Brian felt it too, their already impressive connection growing stronger, deeper. Their combat awareness expanded, letting them sense threats before they materialized. Our child is helping us survive, Kira explained, wonder in her voice. Even before birth, they're protecting their parents. That's Brian said proudly, getting all right. Our little one is taking after both of us. The Alliance bunker loomed before them, its reinforced doors bearing the scars of recent combat. Through their enhanced bond, both Brian and Kira sensed something wrong before their tactical systems confirmed it. The security protocols are offline, Brian muttered, his rifle tracking potential threat vectors. That's not standard procedure, Kira's blade hummed with barely contained energy. The defensive turrets are dark too. Through their connection, he felt her maternal instincts heightening her already formidable combat awareness. Someone's home, and they're not friendly. Their unborn child's presence in their shared consciousness pulsed with warning, adding another layer to their tactical assessment. Drachnid signatures inside? Brian confirmed, processing the enhanced data their child was providing. They've turned our safe house into an ambush point! Kira's appreciation for tactical efficiency showed even when facing enemies. But they couldn't have anticipated us or what we've become. Brian grinned, feeling her fierce joy match his own. Ready to show them why you don't threaten a family of warriors? Her response came as both thought and action, as she pressed against him, her combat-suited form fitting perfectly against his. My people have a saying, the most dangerous creature in the universe is a mother protecting her child. And what about a father? Her mental touch was warm with affection and desire. That's what makes us truly unstoppable! They moved as one. Their enhanced abilities, allowing them to breach the bunker's compromised defenses with surgical precision. The first group of Drachnid soldiers never knew what hit them. Brian's plasma shots and Kira's energy blade struck simultaneously, their attacks perfectly synchronized through their shared consciousness. The command center, Brian thought, speaking as they cleared another section. If we can reactivate the defense systems, we can turn their ambush against them, Kira finished. But they'll be expecting that. Their unborn child's presence flared in their minds, highlighting alternate routes through the facility. The baby's unique hybrid nature seemed to give it an intuitive understanding of both human and alien technology. Our little one's quite the tactical genius, Brian commented proudly as they followed their child's guidance through maintenance tunnels the enemy had overlooked. Takes after their father, Kira teased, though her mental touch conveyed deep appreciation for his strategic mind. They emerged near the command center, just as a massive explosion rocked the facility. Through their bond, they felt their baby's alarm, followed by a surge of protective energy that somehow strengthened their combat capabilities even further. They're trying to collapse the bunker, Brian realized, his enhanced senses tracking structural damage, trapping them inside. Kira's response was typically direct. She launched herself at the command center's doors, her blade cutting through reinforced metal-like paper. Brian covered her advance, his shots finding impossible angles to eliminate threats before they fully materialized. The command center itself was a nightmare of close-quarters combat. Their enemies had fortified the position, turning the Alliance's own defensive equipment against them. But they hadn't counted on facing two beings fighting as one, their actions guided by both tactical brilliance and parental instinct. "The main console!" Kira called out, both verbally and mentally. "I'll need 30 seconds!" "You've got 60, Brian replied, taking up a defensive position that let him cover all approaches. "Take your time, beautiful. I've got this." Through their connection, he felt her fingers flying over the controls while she simultaneously maintained her combat awareness. Their child's presence seemed to enhance her interface with the systems, letting her bypass security protocols that should have taken hours to crack. "Almost there," she reported as Brian's rifle sang a deadly symphony. "The defensive grid is interesting." "Interesting how?" Brian asked, feeling a sense of urgency. "Our baby is helping me understand it. The protocols aren't just Alliance standard. There's a Lazarian code mixed in, almost like—" Another explosion cut off her observation, this one close enough to shower them with debris. Their child's protective instincts flared again, and Brian felt power surge through his muscles as he held off a renewed enemy assault. "Done!" Kira announced triumphantly. "Defense systems online in 3, 2, 1. The bunker's hidden weapons roared to life, but not in the way either of them expected. Instead of following standard protocols, the system seemed to operate with almost organic precision, targeting threats with uncanny accuracy. "That's not normal," Brian observed as automated turrets eliminated enemies with perfect efficiency. "No," Kira agreed, her mental touch filled with wonder. "Our child, they're interfacing with the system somehow, merging human and Lazarian technology just like they merge our DNA." The bunker's command center hummed with restored power as Brian and Kira dealt with the aftermath of their successful defense. Through their bond, they felt their unborn child's satisfaction at the harmony it had created between human and Lazarian systems. "The Alliance brass is going to have questions," Brian said, reviewing the combat logs. Their child had somehow compiled these efficiency ratings off the charts. "The Lazarian High Command is already demanding explanations," Kira announced, her mental touch tense. "Our defensive patterns weren't conventional." "You mean our baby turning this place into the galaxy's most sophisticated hybrid weapons platform?" "Yeah. That might raise some eyebrows." Their shared consciousness rippled with amusement, but underlying concern colored their connection. The implications of their child's abilities were staggering. Being capable of seamlessly merging two vastly different technological paradigms while still in the womb. "But they're sending representatives," Kira announced, her mental touch tense. "Both sides high-ranking officials who want answers." Brian moved behind her, settling his hands on her shoulders. Through their bond, he felt her lean into his touch, both physically and mentally. "Then we'll give them answers on our terms." The Lazarian matriarchy has strict protocols about genetic mixing, she warned, though her thoughts revealed pride rather than worry. But they have never encountered anything like this. Neither has the Alliance. Brian grinned, feeling their baby's consciousness pulsate with approval. I'd say we're writing new protocols here. A priority alert flashed across their displays, incoming shuttles, both human and Lazarian. Their child's presence in their shared mind highlighted tactical data about the approaching vessels, analyzing them with unprecedented depth. 2 hours until they arrive, Kira calculated, turning to face Brian. Her combat suit emphasized her warrior physique while subtly accommodating their growing child. Time enough for a proper reunion. Their bond sparked with shared desire, their earlier passion rekindled by victory and survival. Brian pulled her close, feeling how perfectly they fit together. Always time for that, he murmured, but then paused as their baby's consciousness brushed against their minds. Wait, is it safe with Junior here, being so aware? Kira's mental touch was rich with both amusement and desire. Lazarian children in the womb enter dormant phases. Our little one is giving us privacy. Smart kid, Brian leaned in, their shared consciousness amplifying every sensation. Takes after their mother. Their intimate moment was interrupted by another alert. Preliminary questions from both commands demanding immediate responses. The messages were filled with barely concealed shock at the combat data they'd received. They're scared, Kira observed, reading between the lines. Our child's abilities threaten everything they think they know about human-alien relations. Brian snorted. They should be amazed instead. Look what humanity and Lazarians can achieve together. Through their bond, they felt their baby stir, its consciousness expanding to interface with the bunker systems again. Data streams began flowing across screens, showing previous attempts at human-Lazarian cooperation. All failures until now. We're the first success, Kira whispered, understanding dawning. Because everyone else tried to force it, Brian finished. The realization was clear in their shared mind. Laboratories controlled conditions, careful breeding programs. But us? We just happened. Kira's smile was radiant, natural, unplanned, driven by genuine connection rather than scientific agenda. Their child's presence hummed with approval, sending waves of contentment through their bond. The baby's abilities seemed to grow stronger by the hour, but always in harmony with both parents' natural traits. So how do we explain this to the brass? Brian wondered, reviewing the increasingly demanding messages. Kira's response came with a predatory smile that sent shivers of anticipation through their connection. We show them. Let them see what humanity and Lazarians can truly achieve when we stop forcing it and let nature take its course. You mean give them a demonstration? Brian raised an eyebrow, feeling her strategic mind work through their bond. Our child can interface with both species' technology simultaneously. Imagine the possibilities for peaceful cooperation, for advancement. Her eyes gleamed. They can't ignore that, and if they try. Her mental touch was steel wrapped in silk. Then we remind them that I'm a Lazarian warrior princess, and you're a human marine who've already proven we can hold this position against superior forces while expecting, Brian added proudly. While expecting? Of course! Kira's eyes sparkled with mischief and pride. Speaking of which, our little one is still in their dormant phase. The command center's holographic displays flickered to life as the joint delegation of human and Lazarian officials filed in, their expressions a mixture of skepticism and barely concealed anxiety. Through their bond, Brian and Kira felt their unborn child's curiosity about the newcomers. Admiral Thompson of the Alliance Navy, he began, his tone carefully neutral. Your combat logs show impossible levels of system integration. Wait! Kira cut him off as the bunker's perimeter alarms screamed to life. Through their enhanced connection, Brian and Kira instantly recognized the threat. A final, desperate Drachnid assault incoming. Brian! Kira called out, but their child was already ahead of him. The bunker's hybrid defense systems activated with supernatural precision, creating an intricate web of human and Lazarian technology working in perfect harmony. Impossible, Matriarch Alara breathed, watching the tactical displays. Our systems aren't compatible with human technology? The energy signatures alone should cancel each other out. Kira finished. Perhaps it's time we showed you what's possible when we stop focusing on what should be impossible. Their unborn child's consciousness expanded, touching every system in the bunker. The officials gasped as holographic displays transformed, showing them the battle from an entirely new perspective. One that merged human tactical analysis with Lazarian spiritual awareness. By the first light, Alara whispered, recognizing the distinctive pattern of Lazarian battle meditation overlaid with Alliance combat algorithms. How are you doing this? We're not, Brian said proudly, moving to stand beside Kira. Our child is. Through their shared consciousness, they felt their baby's satisfaction as it demonstrated its abilities. Human plasma turrets fired in perfect synchronization with Lazarian energy matrices, creating defense patterns that shouldn't have been possible. A hybrid? Thompson realized, his tactical mind quickly grasping the implications. But the failed experiments failed because they were experiments, Kira interrupted, her warrior's pride evident. Our child was conceived in battle, born of genuine connection and choice, natural selection at its finest. The bunker shuddered under another assault, but their baby control never wavered. If anything, the attack seemed to strengthen its abilities, pushing the boundaries of what both species thought possible. Quote, Brian suggested as their child initiated what could only be described as a technological symphony. The officials stared in wonder as human and Lazarian systems began working together in ways their designers had never imagined. Plasma weapons gained the spiritual resonance of Lazarian technology, while energy matrices incorporated the practical efficiency of human engineering. The Drachnids, Admiral Thompson noted, studying the tactical displays. Their attacks, they're being reflected back at them. Somehow, our child understands both technologies at their most fundamental level, Kira explained, her mental touch filled with maternal pride. It sees the harmony where we saw only differences. Through their bond, they felt their baby's consciousness expand even further, reaching beyond the bunker systems. The holographic displays showed something that made even the stoic matriarch gasp. Their child was accessing the Drachnid battle network. Quote, It's not just reflecting their attacks, Brangist, Brian realized, understanding flowing through their shared awareness. It's showing them what they're fighting against, making them feel unity, Kira finished. The power of two species working as one, driven by something stronger than hatred or fear. The Drachnid assault faltered as their own systems began broadcasting the truth. The existence of a being that represented everything they had fought against, yet embodied strengths they couldn't ignore. They're retreating, Thompson announced, his professional detachment cracking. Not just from the bunker, the entire sector. They're pulling back. Through their connection, Brian and Kira felt their child's satisfaction. It had shown their enemies a glimpse of what was possible. Not just technological integration, but true harmony between different species. So, Brian turned to face the officials, his arm around Kira's waist. Still think human-Lazarian cooperation is impossible? Matriarch Alara stepped forward, her ancient eyes filled with wonder. Your child, it's not just a hybrid, it's an evolution, a bridge between our peoples that we never dreamed possible. And a warning to our enemies, Admiral Thompson added, his tactical mind already seeing the strategic implications. A demonstration that humanity and Lazarians together are far more powerful than either species alone. 3 months after the historic bunker incident, Brian paced nervously in the gleaming halls of the newly established Human-Lazarian Unity Medical Center. The facility, a groundbreaking collaboration between both species, hummed with harmoniously merged technologies, a testament to the changes their unborn child had inspired. Through their ever-strengthening bond, he felt Kira's amused tolerance of his anxiety. My fearless warrior, her thoughts reached him, who faced down an army without flinching, now undone by the prospect of fatherhood. Quote, Combat's easier, he sent back, making his way to a private room. At least there, I could shoot the problems. Her mental laughter warmed him as he entered. Kira reclined on a bed that incorporated both human medical technology and Lazarian healing energies. Her silver hair fanned out around her, and her lavender skin seemed to glow with an inner light. You look beautiful, he said aloud, moving to her side. Flatterer. She pulled him down for a kiss that sent sparks through their shared consciousness. Though I doubt I'll maintain this glow once labor begins. The child's presence in their minds had grown stronger over the months, its consciousness now a constant companion that enhanced every aspect of their bond. Even now, it was interfacing with the medical center systems, monitoring its own delivery with fascinating precision. The little one's certainly eager, Brian observed, feeling their baby's anticipation through their connection. Takes after their mother. Always ready for action, says the man who charged into enemy fire to save a paralyzed alien warrior. Kira's mental touch was full of love and gratitude. The medical center's systems suddenly hummed with increased activity as their baby detected the beginning of labor. Doctors and healers from both species moved with practiced efficiency, their previously incompatible methods now working in perfect harmony thanks to the protocols their child had helped establish. Remember when everyone thought this was impossible? Brian asked, holding Kira's hand as the contractions began. Human Lazarian reproduction, compatible technology, lasting peace. They lacked imagination, Kira replied, her warrior strength evident even now, and the courage to follow their hearts instead of their fears. Their child's consciousness expanded, filling the delivery room with a sense of serene purpose. The merged medical systems responded to its guidance, creating optimal conditions for its own birth. Hours passed in a blur of sensation and shared experience. Brian felt everything Kira felt, their bond transmitting both pain and triumph as they worked together to bring their child into existence. The medical staff watched in wonder as human and Lazarian birthing techniques combined seamlessly, guided by the very being they were helping to deliver. Finally, with a cry that seemed to resonate through both physical and digital space, their son was born. He's perfect, Brian breathed, staring at the infant who embodied the future of both their species. The baby's skin held a subtle lavender tint that shifted in the light, while his hair showed hints of Brian's brown among Kira's silver. His eyes, when they opened, were a stunning mixture of storm gray and earth brown. Ares, Kira said softly, the name they had chosen together after the human warrior who dreamed of uniting worlds. Through their bond, they felt their son's approval of the name, along with his immediate connection to the medical center systems. But unlike before, his technological interface was gentle, curious rather than defensive. He's already adapting, Brian noted proudly, learning to use his abilities for healing instead of warfare. Because he doesn't need to fight anymore, Kira responded, cradling their child. Thanks to what we proved was possible, both our peoples are finally working together. It was true. In the months since their stand in the bunker, the alliance between humans and Lazarians had transformed from a military necessity into a true partnership. The Drachnids, faced with this unprecedented unity, had withdrawn to their borders, opening diplomatic channels for the first time in decades. Ambassador Carter, Brian mused, looking at his son, has a nice ring to it. Quote, Ambassador? Think bigger. Kira's eyes sparkled with mischief and pride. He's already interfacing with both species' technology in ways we never imagined. By the time he's grown, he'll rewrite the rules of what's possible. Brian finished, feeling their child's consciousness brush against both their minds with love and purpose. Through their shared awareness, they glimpsed possibilities. Futures where humanity and Lazarians achieved things neither species could have managed alone. And at the center of it all, our son, a living bridge between worlds. You know, Brian said, sitting beside them on the bed, when I found you on that battlefield, I never imagined we'd end up here. Quote dot. No. Kira's mental touch was teasing. The great human warrior didn't plan on saving a paralyzed alien princess, falling in love, and fathering the galaxy's first natural hybrid. Well, when you put it that way, he leaned in to kiss her, their bond singing with shared joy as their son's consciousness wrapped around them both. A family united in ways no one had ever dreamed possible.